Hello, my humans. Welcome to Murder Monday. And today we have, on this February, I have my February mug. It looks like wind and snow, and the light blue gives me Feb vibes. And we have some Earl Grey tea, by the way. Very aromatic and flavorful. Alex Murdaugh trial. Watch, it's Saturday the 18th when I'm filming this. I just finished watching the afternoon of day 20 of the trial, and trial's not happening again until tomorrow for you, Tuesday. And I have organized something for me to keep points on, much better than any of the attorneys on my fancy clipboard for you. So I'm going to be looking down a lot to consult the notes. That's what this is. So what do we have? I have been a very big stander of, I don't think he's guilty for a long time, but I've had a lot of turnaround. I just wish it didn't take so long to get there. So the prosecution's pros and cons, I'm going to talk about their cons first, and that's this timeline, man, the storytelling. I need a storytelling element. I need you to tell me what happened. And it's taken them forever to get there. I can see them doing a big closing argument of laying everything out, but it'd be nice to have that beforehand. And the order of their witnesses is nuts and inexplicable, befuddling, and the prosecution isn't supposed to make things befuddling. They're supposed to make things more clear. Both sides with the grandstanding and monologuing. Ask your questions and don't argue with each other. You know, go to the bar and do that, not in the courtroom. Wasting all of our time. And the lawyer, why aren't they lawyering? If they want to take things out on each other, object to the hearsay, the speculation, the outside of scope, to the leading, all of the leading. Like, lawyer, do your thing. You're allowed to object. And the few objections that have been made, the judge has sustained many of them. So it's not like, oh, there's no point in objecting when they're all going to get overruled. Not so much. The next thing that we need to do is that they both take too long for simple answers. Like, just ask the question, did you really know him? Is that true? Did this happen? What was the time of death? Can you confirm that? Yes, no, maybe so. Let them and shut up and let them answer. The compound. Where are the objections for all the compound questions? But the prosecution on their good side, it's taken a while to get here. If they would have ordered it a little better, the bad acts, the stealing from and bringing down the legacy firm would have been good. And it's still good stuff. The CFO, the confronting on the 7th that led to the murders, that is a good foundation for motive of, well, why would he kill his child and his wife if they were supposedly this loving family that welcomed everyone kindly? Well, maybe it's because Maggie wanted to settle. Paul found out about the drugs and told his mom. All of the lies. He lied to everybody in his life. He continued to lie to the police. He brought, all these people trusted him, his clients, his firm, his family, and he took all of them down without hardly a second thought. He tried to, and he continued to try to set himself up with the roadside incident. He lied about being at the kennels. And there's definitive, to me, there's very exemplary proof that he was at the kennels. Snapchat video, the timeline expert from the OnStar information, which I understand came late. And the other thing that the prosecutors have going for them is their witness list. Some of the witnesses we didn't need, but, having Tinsley up there to say that Alec was hiding his assets and trying to transfer names, and he didn't want to settle. Maggie wanted him to settle, and Alec was like, no. Having the CFO get up there and go, he lied over and over. He made the fake forge. He was willing to go the distance to make a fake forge account to continue to hide his crimes, and lied to his best friends and closest people to get away with it for years. is it really that far outside the scope? If he's willing to go that far, what's stopping him from going further into murder? The prosecution hasn't laid it out like that, but that's on their side if the jury can conclude that for themselves. And their witnesses, all of the people who were assistants to the Murdaugh family, Blanca, the caretakers of the parents, Miss Oswald and Miss Shelley, the kennel keeper, all of them have been key witnesses for the prosecution. Blanca was like, things are out of place, this is wrong, I was there the night before, here's what I found after. And no, you weren't wearing that shirt. I've never even seen that shirt. I haven't seen that shirt since. Shelley telling Shelley, oh, I was here for 30 or 40 minutes if somebody asked. He was really only there for 15, 20 minutes, which again, the OnStar stuff and the timeline expert on that did help with. Then the kennel keeper, the dogs were in the wrong spot. He put the hose away and everything was already cleaned up when he left. So dogs are in the wrong spot. Bubba's the only, like, it takes a family member to get Bubba, and it still takes a long time. And Bubba's in the wrong cage with a bird body next to him. And in the Snapchat video, Bubba had a bird that Alec was trying to get away from him beforehand. How long did that take before the murders happened? If they died around 8:40, 9 o'clock, and it was an hour later, 10:06 p.m. when Alec finally called 911, he had an hour to do some cleaning up, hiding, and Bubba chasing. The pathologist, she's like, entry wounds, 3 feet. Somebody couldn't have been hiding in the trees or off on the roof. No, that's not what the entry wounds, they had to be within 3 feet. It couldn't have been from himself because there was no contact. There was a lot of stuff. The defense was trying to throw a lot of things, and the pathologist threw a monkey wrench into all of it with her expertise. And, you know, that's a lot that they have going for them. And if they can present that in a better linear story at the end in their closing, I think they've got a pretty solid case on their hands. But the prosecution, the defense is not without what they have going on too. Again, I have problems with the grandstanding and the monologuing and not asking simple questions. They also have had some very poor witnesses so far. Like the woman who was the sheriff's office reporter, she's not a bad person. She was actually quite funny and charming, but she didn't help them. She was like, no, that's not what we did. And we collectively did that. That wasn't a personal opinion of mine. And he didn't know the answer. Poot doesn't know the answers to the questions he's asking. And it's happened a couple times with Creighton, but there's more standout moments for Poot with that. Like when he said, well, you had to have called somebody to get the passcode to put it in airplane mode, right? You had to get the passcode to open, unlock the phone. And the guy was like, no, you just got to open it and slide it down. You don't need to actually unlock the phone to get into airplane mode. And Poot was genuinely like, you don't? And, you know, for preservation points. And then Poot brings in this they bring in a coroner, not the pathologist, who decided to determine the time of death because of armpit. Well, I put my hand under their arms and determined that they were warm. Yeah, Alec called and said he found his family and that he talked to them earlier. They died that day, whether it's at Alec's hands or somebody else's. Yeah, they died that night, within the hour of you getting there. The body's still going to be warm. It was a humid night in South Carolina in June. Yeah, they're going to be warm. And not to mention, the way that coroner pronounced rigor mortis as rigor, that would be enough for me to just dismiss him. Maybe that's wrong of me, but I think I'm not the only one who's like, the coroner is pronouncing it rigor mortis. I have no faith and confidence in this individual. Not to mention they did, again, that liver temperature, rectal thermometer. No, I'm just going to stick my hand in their armpit and determine that they're warm. And then what he tried to say was, well, even thermometers can be off. I could put it on the forehead and it'll say 99 and 103 in the ear. Yeah, either way, that person has a fever, sir. That's a negligible amount. Well, the thermometer isn't 100% right either. I'm going to trust the thermometer more than your fingers in an armpit. But there are good things that the defense has going for them. One, it's that, yeah, Alex screwed over a lot of people. He was into drugs. Someone could have had a thirst for blood on their hands. And you know what? He was in a panic. Maybe he was on drugs and really didn't hear and understand what was going on. Maybe that's why he said, he was like, oh, I need to tell them that I checked for pulses. It's like, why would you check for a pulse on Paul? His cranium contents weren't in his cranium. Like, you don't need to check a pulse, bro. A lot of vigilantes on the list. But my problem with that, and there's too much, we'll stick to this. There's too much financial evidence that's been brought in. It's like, okay, Alex Murdaugh is a financial fraudulent criminal. He stole from people. Did he kill people? I think if they go with, and SLED did a sloppy investigation. They didn't use or execute their search warrants, and a lot of stuff waited until months. They waited until September to process a bunch of information. I'm sorry, what now? Was he really that much of a suspect to begin with? If we're not going to clear the house so we can search it and look for things, we're not going to check the Almeida house, despite the fact that a tarp-like thing that could have hidden a gun at some point and had residue on it. We're not going to check this gun for immediately that has blood that belongs to one of the victims on it. It's fine. That's a lot of not hardcore evidence that could have excused Alex Murdaugh. But I'm leaning towards guilt. And here's why. As long as the timeline gets presented right, he was at the kennels. He lied about the kennels. He lied to a lot of other people. He lied to the police multiple times about whether or not he was at the kennel in their time of death. If they died between 8:40 and 9 something, and he didn't call for an hour and a half later, he should have heard shots. He should have seen something. He would have known if somebody was out in his gun deck looking for stuff. The house wasn't that far away. Even if he was napping, gunshots could have woken him up, okay? And he was there. He had to hear something. The second thing is that Maggie and Paul found out about the drugs. His life was crumbling around him. That's a lot of pressure. There have been people who have just lost their jobs, who have killed their families before out of fear of hopelessness. And he's a drug addict on top of that. His dad was in hospice. His mom has Alzheimer's. There's only so much a person can take before they snap. And I think that, his world crumbling around him, the drug addict thing, the lying about the roadside incident that came in, him trying to create an alibi by asking, the people around him to lie. I was here for this long, not this long. Well, don't you remember me wearing this shirt? And it was like, no. So there's a lot of things. He lied and tried to lie to multiple people. He was into drugs. He tried to fake his own death. And he was there. So he knew. And you know what? I think if a jury were to say, maybe you didn't pull a trigger, but you orchestrated this death, which still makes you culpable for their death. And I think that's a fair thing to do. It might not be directly the examination, but that still makes him culpable. The reason they're dead is you. Just because you pulled the trigger doesn't mean you're not responsible. So you did essentially kill Maggie and Paul. And that's where I am. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed the tea. Join me again for the next video. Subscribe if you enjoy hearing me talk and have a little tea, spilling the tea. Bye-bye. Stop button didn't stop.